The kitchen door closed with a soft, final click. Chef number 70 bowed deeply, his face burning with shame as he gathered his knives and walked past the silent row of staff members who wouldn't meet his eyes. His hands trembled as he clutched the handle of his knife case. Not from fear, but from the crushing weight of failure. He had trained for 15 years in Paris. He had cooked for presidents. Yet he couldn't feed one small boy. The house manager, Mrs. Kong, stood with her hands folded, her expression carved from ice. She watched the chef disappear down the marble hallway, then turned to face the remaining kitchen staff. No one spoke. No one dared. "Clean the kitchen," she said in Korean, her voice flat. "Tomorrow, chef number 71 arrives." In the dining room, untouched food cooled on fine china. Braised short ribs that had taken 8 hours to prepare. Perfectly steamed rice. Side dishes arranged like art. All of it growing cold under crystal chandeliers that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. The boy sat motionless at the table, his small hands resting in his lap. He was 7 years old, but his eyes looked ancient. He stared at the food as if it were a stranger. A doctor leaned close to Chairman Han Juneseo, speaking in the hushed, formal Korean reserved for men who controlled empires. "Chairman Nim, the child's weight has dropped another kilogram. If this continues..." Han Juneseo didn't move. He stood by the window overlooking Gangnam, Seoul's glittering heart, where every building, every street corner, every breath of commerce flowed through networks he controlled. He was 42 years old, dressed in a black suit that cost more than a car, and when he spoke, politicians listened. When he was silent, people disappeared. But his son wouldn't eat. "How many doctors have I brought?" Han asked, his voice so quiet the doctor had to lean closer. 17, Chairman Nim. "And their diagnosis? Emotional trauma, psychological refusal. The child associates food with..." The doctor hesitated. "With loss." Han's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His son's mother had died 2 years ago. Cancer had taken her in 6 months, turning a vibrant woman into a ghost before his eyes. His son had watched it happen, had watched her waste away, unable to eat, until there was nothing left. Now the boy refused food as if it were poison. "Leave," Han said. The doctor bowed so deeply his forehead nearly touched his chest, then backed out of the room. The other staff followed, moving like shadows. Within seconds, Han stood alone with his son in a room that suddenly felt vast and empty. He walked to the table and sat down across from the boy, Min-jae, his only child, the single point of light in a world built on darkness. "Min-jae," he said softly, using the affectionate form of address. "Just one bite." The boy's eyes lifted to his father's face, and Han saw something that broke him more than any bullet ever could: resignation. His son had given up. Min-jae shook his head, barely a movement. Han reached across the table, his hand, scarred from fights, steady through executions, trembling slightly as he touched his son's small fingers. "Please." It was a word Chairman Han Juneseo never used. A word that had no place in his vocabulary. In the underworld, please was weakness. Please was death. But for his son, he would beg. Min-jae pulled his hand away gently and stood. He bowed to his father with perfect form, the way he'd been taught, then walked silently from the room. Han sat alone at the table, surrounded by untouched food and the crushing weight of helplessness. He could order the death of a rival with a phone call. He could move millions through the city's veins with a word. He controlled judges, police chiefs, politicians. But he couldn't save his son. Mrs. Kong appeared in the doorway, silent as smoke. She had served the Han family for 30 years. She knew when to speak and when to simply exist. "Find Chef 71, Han said without looking at her. "Someone different this time. I don't care about credentials. I don't care about training. Find someone who cooks like they're feeding family, not impressing judges." "Yes, Chairman Nim." She bowed and left, her footsteps silent on marble that had cost blood to acquire. Han stood and walked to the window. Below, Seoul pulsed with life. Millions of people going about their evening, unaware that above them, in a fortress of wealth and power, a man who controlled their city couldn't control the one thing that mattered. He pressed his palm against the cold glass and closed his eyes. His empire was built on fear, on respect, on the unshakable foundation of power. But power meant nothing when your child was fading away. The basement of the Han mansion was where the lowest staff lived, the ones who cleaned what others dirtied, who worked when others slept, who existed in the margins of luxury without ever touching it. Emily had lived there for 8 months. Her room was barely larger than a closet, with a narrow bed, a small dresser, and a single window that looked out onto a concrete wall. But it was hers. It was safe. And most importantly, it allowed her to send money home to Ghana every month, where her mother was raising her younger siblings. She had lost more than most people could understand, but she had learned that survival meant putting one foot in front of the other, even when your heart was broken. It was past midnight when she finished her shift. She had scrubbed the main kitchen floors, cleaned the bathrooms used by the higher-ranking staff, and organized the storage rooms. Her hands ached, her back ached, but the ache was familiar now, almost comforting in its constancy. She was heading back to her room when she passed the kitchen and saw the waste. Plates of untouched food sat on the counter, waiting to be thrown away. Beautiful food, expensive food, food that had been prepared with skill and care, only to be rejected. Emily stopped in the doorway. She had worked in enough wealthy homes to understand the rules. Staff didn't eat the family's food. Staff didn't question. Staff stayed invisible. But the waste hurt something deep inside her. She thought of her mother, rationing rice to feed 5 children. She thought of the neighbors back home who sometimes went to bed hungry. She thought of her daughter, her beautiful girl who had died at 3 years old because they couldn't afford the medicine, because food had become a luxury in those final months. She closed her eyes and breathed slowly, pushing the memories down. Then she looked at the food again and made a decision. She wouldn't waste it. She would transform it. Moving quietly, Emily began to work. She took the expensive short ribs and shredded the meat, mixing it with overcooked rice to create a simple juk, a Korean rice porridge. She added water, a touch of sesame oil, some scallions. Nothing fancy, nothing that would be missed. As she stirred the pot, she hummed. It was unconscious, a melody from home that her mother used to sing while cooking. The rhythm of the wooden spoon against the pot, the steam rising, the smell of something simple and honest filling the kitchen. It all felt like prayer. She didn't hear the small footsteps behind her. "What are you making?" Emily spun around so fast she nearly dropped the spoon. Her heart hammered as she saw the small boy standing in the kitchen doorway, wearing pajamas decorated with cartoon characters. She recognized him immediately, the chairman's son. She dropped into a deep bow, her forehead nearly touching her knees. "I'm so sorry, young master. I didn't mean, I was just... Please forgive me." The boy walked closer, peering into the pot. "It smells good." Emily stayed bowed, her mind racing. She would be fired. Worse than fired. She had heard stories about what happened to staff who overstepped. "Please," she whispered in Korean, though her accent was heavy. "Please don't tell. I'll throw it away. I won't do it again. Can I try some?" She lifted her head slowly, confused. The boy was looking at her with curious eyes. Not angry, not judgmental, just curious. "You want to eat?" she asked carefully. He nodded. Emily glanced toward the door, expecting staff to rush in, to pull her away. But the kitchen was silent. It was past midnight. The higher staff were asleep. The security focused on external threats, not a poor cleaning woman and a small boy. She ladled a small amount of juk into a bowl, her hands shaking. She placed it on the counter and stepped back, bowing again. The boy climbed onto a stool and picked up the spoon. He looked at the simple porridge, nothing like the elaborate meals prepared for him daily. Then he took a bite. Emily held her breath. Min-jae chewed slowly, swallowed, then took another bite, and another. She watched in astonishment as he ate half the bowl, then 3/4, then scraped the bottom clean. When he looked up, there was something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. A tiny spark, a moment of life. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emily," she whispered. "That's hard to say." He thought for a moment. "Can I call you Ajumma?" It was a Korean term, respectful but warm, what children called older women who cared for them. Not quite family, but not quite stranger either. Emily's eyes burned. She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Will you make more tomorrow?" Min-jae asked. "Aye." She didn't know what to say. "If you want, young master." He smiled. A small, fragile thing that looked like it might break. Then he climbed down from the stool and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "Don't tell my father," he said. "He gets worried." Then he was gone, leaving Emily standing in the kitchen, her heart pounding, her mind trying to process what had just happened. The chairman's son had eaten. The boy who had rejected 70 chefs had eaten her simple porridge made from scraps. She looked down at her trembling hands and wondered if she had just saved her job or doomed herself entirely. The security room of the Han mansion never slept. 12 monitors displayed every angle of the property, recording everything, missing nothing. 2 guards rotated shifts, watching screens with the bored attention of men who expected nothing to happen. Until one of them saw movement in the kitchen at 12:47 a.m. He leaned forward, frowning. The cleaning woman was there, which wasn't unusual, but she was cooking. And then, his breath caught, the young master entered. The guard reached for his phone to alert Mrs. Kong, then hesitated. He watched the screen carefully. The woman had dropped into a deep bow. She looked terrified, not threatening. And the young master was eating? The guard sat back slowly, his hand leaving the phone. He glanced at his partner, who was dozing in his chair. Then he looked back at the screen. The boy was eating. Actually eating. The guard made a decision. He would watch. He would record. But he wouldn't interrupt. Not yet. Mrs. Kong received the security report at 6 a.m., along with her morning tea. She read it twice, her expression unchanging, then walked directly to Chairman Han's study. He was already awake, reviewing financial reports from the previous night's operations. He didn't look up when she entered, but he knew she was there. "Chairman Nim," she said quietly, "there's something you need to see." 5 minutes later, Han sat in the security room, watching footage from the previous night. He saw the cleaning woman. He had never noticed her before, had never needed to. He saw his son enter the kitchen, saw the woman bow in terror, saw Min-jae eat. He watched the footage 3 times without speaking. "Who is she?" he finally asked. Mrs. Kong consulted her tablet. Amelie Mensah, age 28, from Ghana, hired 8 months ago through a subcontractor, works night shifts cleaning kitchens and staff areas, lives in basement quarters, no disciplinary issues, sends most of her salary home to her family. Background: we ran standard checks when she was hired. No criminal record, no red flags. She's nobody, Chairman Nim, just a cleaning woman. Han stared at the frozen image on the screen. His son, smiling at a bowl of simple porridge. "Bring her to my office," he said. "This morning." Mrs. Kong bowed. "Yes, Chairman Nim." As she left, Han remained in the security room, watching the footage play again. He studied the woman's body language, the deep bow, the fear in her eyes, the genuine shock when Min-jae asked to eat. She hadn't known who the boy was, hadn't prepared the food for him. She had simply been cooking, and Min-jae had found her. Or perhaps Min-jae had found exactly what he needed. Han's phone buzzed. Messages from his operations across the city. Territory disputes, payment schedules, the endless machinery of his empire demanding attention. He silenced the phone and kept watching the screen. For the first time in 2 years, his son had eaten, had smiled, and a poor cleaning woman from Ghana had accomplished what 70 trained chefs could not. Amelie was scrubbing a bathroom on the 3rd floor when Mrs. Kong found her. "The chairman wants to see you." The brush fell from Amelie's hand and clattered into the toilet. She stared at Mrs. Kong with wide, terrified eyes. "Please," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I'll leave. I won't ask for final payment. Just please." "Now," Mrs. Kong said, her voice carrying no emotion. "Clean yourself up first. You have 5 minutes." Amelie's hands shook so badly she could barely turn on the tap. She scrubbed her hands, splashed water on her face, tried to smooth her uniform. In the small bathroom mirror, she saw a woman who looked like she was walking to her execution. Maybe she was. The walk to Chairman Han's study felt like miles. Mrs. Kong led her through parts of the mansion she had never seen. Hallways with artwork that cost more than her life. Rooms decorated with a cold, perfect elegance that felt more like a museum than a home. They stopped at a door of dark wood. Mrs. Kong knocked twice. "Enter," came a voice from within. Mrs. Kong opened the door but didn't step inside. She gestured for Amelie to enter alone. Amelie walked into the study and immediately dropped to her knees, pressing her forehead to the floor in a full Korean bow, the kind reserved for the deepest respect or the deepest apology. "I'm sorry," she said in Korean, her accent thick with fear. "I'm so sorry, Chairman Nim. Please forgive me. I didn't mean disrespect. I will leave immediately." Silence filled the room. Then footsteps, slow and measured, walking around his desk. "Stand up," Han said quietly. Amelie stood on trembling legs, but kept her head down, her eyes fixed on the floor. She could see his shoes, expensive, polished to a mirror shine. She had probably cleaned the floor he walked on. "Look at me." She forced herself to lift her head. And for the first time, She looked directly at Chairman Han Junesio. He was tall, lean, with features that could have been carved from stone. His eyes were dark and completely unreadable. He studied her the way someone might study an interesting insect, curious, analytical, showing nothing of what he thought. "My son ate your food," he said. It wasn't a question, but Amelie nodded anyway. "Yes, Chairman Nim." "Why?" I don't know, Chairman Nim," he asked. "I couldn't refuse the young master. Before that, why were you cooking?" Amelie's throat tightened. The food was going to waste. I thought I could make something simple, something not to waste. "I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have touched." "Make it again." She blinked. "Chairman Nim, tonight, the same food. For my son." He paused, and something flickered across his expression. Something that might have been desperation, though it was gone too quickly to be sure. "He won't eat for anyone else." Amelie's mind raced. This wasn't anger. This wasn't punishment. This was, "You want me to cook for the young master?" she asked carefully. "Yes, but the chefs. The chefs are fired." Han walked back to his desk and sat down, his movements precise and controlled. "You will prepare dinner for Min-jae. If he eats, you will continue. If he doesn't..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Amelie bowed deeply. "I understand, Chairman Nim. Thank you. I won't fail. Mrs. Kong will show you the kitchen. You'll have access to anything you need." "Yes, Chairman Nim." She bowed again and turned to leave, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "One more thing," Han said, stopping her at the door. She turned back, bowing. "Yes, Chairman Nim? My son called you a Jumma. Do you know what that means?" "Yes, Chairman Nim. It's respectful. For an older woman who cares for children." Something shifted in Han's expression, so subtle it was almost invisible. But Amelie saw it. A crack in the stone. A glimpse of the father beneath the crime lord. "He hasn't called anyone that since his mother died," Han said quietly. Then, in a voice that carried the weight of empires, "Don't hurt him." It wasn't a threat. It was a plea. "Never, Chairman Nim," Amelie whispered. "I promise." She left the study and found Mrs. Kong waiting in the hallway. The house manager's expression was as unreadable as ever, but there was something in her eyes, calculation perhaps, or curiosity. "You're very lucky," Mrs. Kong said as they walked, "or very foolish. I haven't decided which." "I just want to help the young master," Amelie said honestly. "The young master has been helped by 70 chefs, 17 doctors, and countless specialists. What makes you think you can do what they couldn't?" Amelie thought about her daughter, about the nights she had stayed up, trying to get her to eat, knowing that every bite mattered, that every refusal brought them closer to the end. She thought about the desperate creativity of poverty, how to make something from nothing, how to feed people when there was no food, how to give comfort when there was no hope. "I don't think I'm better than them," she said quietly. "I just think maybe he needs something different, something simple, something that feels like..." "Like what?" Amelie met Mrs. Kang's eyes. "Like love." Mrs. Kang stopped walking. For a long moment, she studied Amelie's face. Then she nodded slowly. "The kitchen is this way," she said. "Cook well, Amelie SSI. Everything depends on it." That evening, Amelie stood in the massive main kitchen, a space that could have fed a restaurant, equipped with appliances that cost more than she would earn in 10 years. But she ignored all of it and focused on the simple ingredients in front of her. Rice, chicken broth, sesame oil, scallions, garlic. She made juk again, but this time she added small pieces of tender chicken, cooked until they fell apart. She made a simple side of steamed vegetables, cut into small, non-threatening pieces. She poured everything into bowls that felt too expensive to touch, arranged them on a tray, and carried them to the dining room. Min-jae was already seated, wearing clean clothes and a nervous expression. When he saw her, his face lit up. "Ajama!" Chairman Han sat at the head of the table, watching everything. Amelie bowed deeply to him, then set the food in front of Min-jae. "I made more," she said softly in Korean. "I hope you like it." Min-jae picked up his spoon immediately and began eating. Not slowly, not hesitantly. He ate like a hungry child should eat, with enthusiasm and joy. Amelie stepped back against the wall, her hands folded, her head bowed. She could feel Chairman Han's eyes on her, measuring, evaluating. Min-jae finished the entire bowl and looked up at her with bright eyes. "Can I have more?" "Of course, young master." She refilled his bowl in the kitchen, her hands steadier now. When she returned, She found Han speaking quietly to his son in Korean, asking him about his day. It was such a normal scene, a father and son at dinner, that it almost made her forget where she was. After Min-jae finished his second bowl, he turned to his father. Appa, can Ajumma eat with us? The room went still. Han looked at his son, then at Amelie. She kept her head down, not daring to breathe. She's staff Min-jae, Han said gently. But she made the food, and I like her. Please. Amelie saw something incredible happen. Chairman Han Juneseo, a man who controlled Seoul's underworld, who made politicians tremble, hesitated, considered, then gestured to a chair. Sit, he said to Amelie. She almost refused. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, that she was overstepping. But Min-jae was looking at her with such hopeful eyes. She sat carefully on the edge of the chair, her posture rigid, ready to jump up at any moment. Han pushed a bowl toward her. Eat. I couldn't, Chairman Nim. This is your. Eat. It was an order, not an invitation. With shaking hands, Amelie picked up a spoon and took a small bite of the juk she had made. Tasted like home, like her mother's kitchen, like the meals she used to make for her daughter. She swallowed past the lump in her throat. Is it good, Ajumma? Min-jae asked. Yes, young master. Very good. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Min-jae started talking, about a book he was reading, about a dream he had, about nothing and everything. He spoke to Amelie like she was a person, not a servant, like her opinions mattered. And Chairman Han sat quietly, watching his son come back to life, one word at a time. When dinner ended, Min-jae hugged Amelie before leaving, just wrapped his small arms around her waist and squeezed. Thank you, Ajumma, he whispered. Then he was gone, leaving Amelie standing in the dining room with tears threatening to fall. Han stood slowly. You'll cook for him every day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever he needs. Yes, Chairman Nim. Mrs. Kong will move you to better quarters, closer to the main house. That's not necessary. It wasn't a suggestion. He walked toward the door, then paused. My son smiled tonight. That's worth more than you can understand. After he left, Amelie stood alone in the vast dining room and let herself cry quietly, not from fear, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming weight of being given a purpose again. Her daughter was gone, but perhaps she could help save someone else's child. Perhaps that was enough. 3 weeks passed like a dream. Amelie cooked 3 meals a day for Min-jae, and he ate every single one. He gained weight. His color improved. He laughed. She was moved to a small room on the second floor, still simple but with a real window that looked out onto the gardens. The other staff treated her differently now, some with respect, some with jealousy, but she kept her head down and focused on her work. Every evening, she ate dinner with Min-jae and Chairman Han. The chairman rarely spoke during meals, but he was always there, watching his son with an expression that might have been peace. Min-jae started following her around when she worked. He'd sit on the kitchen counter while she cooked, asking questions, telling her stories. He taught her Korean words she didn't know. She taught him phrases in her language. Say medas, she instructed one afternoon while making lunch. Med, mida say? Close enough. It means, thank you. Min-jae practiced it carefully. Medas, Ajumma. She smiled and ruffled his hair, then froze, realizing what she'd done. You didn't touch the chairman's son without permission. You didn't, but Min-jae just laughed and hugged her. I'm teaching you Korean, so you teach me your language, he declared. Fair trade. Fair trade, she agreed softly. One evening, while she was preparing dinner, Mrs. Kong appeared in the kitchen. The chairman wants to see you in his study. Now, Amelie's heart dropped. Had she done something wrong? Overstepped? She washed her hands and followed Mrs. Kong through the mansion, her mind racing through every interaction, every moment, trying to find where she'd failed. Han was at his desk, reviewing documents. He gestured for her to sit without looking up. She sat carefully, her hands folded in her lap. He finished reading, signed something, then set his pen down and looked at her directly. Min-jae's doctors examined him yesterday. He's gained 3 kilograms. His blood work has improved significantly. He's sleeping through the night. Han paused. They asked what changed. I told them his diet. I'm glad he's better, Chairman Nim. You've done more than feed him. You've given him a reason to want to live. Han's expression remained neutral, but there was something in his voice, a crack in the armor. His mother's death destroyed him. He blamed himself. Thought if he stopped eating, he could be with her. Emily's breath caught. She understood that logic. That desperate, broken child logic. He talks about you constantly, Han continued. Ajumma this, Ajumma that. You've become important to him. I care about him very much, Chairman Nim. He's a beautiful child. That makes you a liability. The words hung in the air like a knife. Emily felt ice slide down her spine. Chairman Nim. Han stood and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. I have enemies. Many enemies. They know the fastest way to hurt me is through my son. Until now, that meant security and isolation. But now there's you. A weakness they can exploit. I would never. I know. He turned to face her. That's not the concern. The concern is that they'll use you to get to him. Or use him to get to you. Either way, you're now a target. Emily's mouth went dry. What are you saying? I'm saying that your relationship with my son has created a problem. In my world, problems have permanent solutions. He walked back to his desk and opened a drawer, pulling out a thick envelope. This is 3 years' salary. Take it. Leave tonight. Mrs. Kong will arrange transportation to wherever you want to go. Emily stared at the envelope. 3 years' salary. Enough to change her family's life. Enough to go home, to stop working herself to exhaustion, to breathe. But all she could think about was Min Jae's face when he hugged her. His laugh. His smile. If I leave, she said quietly, will he keep eating? Han's jaw tightened. I don't know. Will he understand why I'm gone? No. She looked down at her hands. Calloused, scarred from work, darker than every other person in this mansion. Then she looked back at Han. I can't leave him, she said. Not like this. Not when he's just starting to heal. You're refusing money that would support your family for years. Think carefully. I am thinking carefully, Chairman Nim. And I'm thinking that sometimes there are things more important than money. She took a shaky breath. My daughter died because I couldn't afford medicine. Because I was poor. Because I failed her. I can't fail another child. I won't. Han studied her for a long moment. Then he put the envelope back in the drawer. Then you understand the risks? Yes, Chairman Nim. And you choose to stay? Yes. He nodded slowly. Then we have a different problem to solve. He pressed a button on his desk. Moments later, 2 men entered. Security personnel, hard-faced and alert. From now on, she has personal protection. 2 guards rotating shifts. No one gets close to her without clearance. The men bowed. Yes, Chairman Nim. Wait, Emily said. That's not necessary. You're important to my son. That makes you important to me. That makes you a target. This isn't negotiable. Han's expression softened almost imperceptibly. You chose to stay for Min Jae. Let me protect you for the same reason. Emily bowed her head, overwhelmed. Thank you, Chairman Nim. That night, Min Jae noticed the guards. Why does Ajumma have bodyguards? He asked his father at dinner. Because she's important, Han said simply. Like you. Like you. Min Jae thought about this seriously, then nodded. Good. Everyone important should be safe. After dinner, while Emily was cleaning up, Min Jae came back to the kitchen. Ajumma? Yes, young master? Are you going to stay forever? She knelt down to his level, meeting his eyes. As long as you need me, I'll be here. Promise. She thought about her own daughter. About promises she couldn't keep. About the impermanence of everything. But she looked at this small boy who had lost his mother, who was fighting to survive, who had somehow decided that she mattered. I promise, she said. He hugged her tightly, and she held him. This child who wasn't hers but felt like hers. In a country that wasn't home but was becoming home. In a life she had never imagined. And for the first time since her daughter died, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could heal too. The attack came on a Tuesday. It was mid-afternoon. Min Jae was in the kitchen with Emily, helping her prepare dinner. He was standing on a stool, carefully measuring rice. His tongue stuck out in concentration. Perfect, Emily said, checking his work. You're becoming a chef, young master. I want to cook like you, he said proudly. One of her guards, the one called Sungmin, stood by the door, alert but relaxed. It was a normal day, peaceful day. That's when Min Jae took a sip from his juice box and started choking. Not just coughing, choking, gasping, his face turning red, then purple. Emily grabbed him instantly. Min Jae, what's wrong? He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. His eyes were wide with terror. Sungmin was on his radio immediately. Medical emergency. The young master. Kitchen now. Emily laid Min-jae on the floor, checking his airway. She could hear wheezing, see his chest heaving. This wasn't choking on food. This was something worse. Allergic reaction, Sungmin said, appearing beside her with an EpiPen from the emergency kit. Move. He administered the shot with practiced precision. Seconds later, medical staff burst into the kitchen. They loaded Min-jae onto a stretcher, working quickly, efficiently. What did he eat? One of them demanded. Nothing yet. Just... Emily looked at the juice box lying on its side, juice pooling on the counter. Just juice. Sungmin picked up the box carefully, examined it. This wasn't on the approved list. I got it from the pantry, Emily said, her voice shaking. The same brand he always has. Test it. Sungmin ordered one of the medical staff. Now. They rushed Min-jae out. Emily tried to follow, but Sungmin stopped her. Stay here. Don't touch anything. But I need to. The chairman is on his way. Stay here. 5 minutes later, Han arrived. He moved through the mansion like a storm, his expression carved from ice and rage. He went straight to the medical wing where Min-jae was being treated. Emily waited in the kitchen, her hands shaking, tears streaming down her face. What had she done? What had she missed? Mrs. Kong appeared, flanked by more security. Come with me. Is Min-jae? Come. Now. They led her to a small room, not an office, not a guest room. A holding room. The kind of place where people were questioned. Emily's blood turned to ice. You think I did this? I think we need to understand exactly what happened, Mrs. Kong said. Sit. For 2 hours, they questioned her. What did she give Min-jae? Where did the juice come from? Who had access to the pantry? Was she angry about anything? Had anyone approached her? Offered her money? Threatened her family? Emily answered everything truthfully, her voice hoarse from crying. She had given him juice from the pantry, the same brand as always. She hadn't noticed anything wrong. No one had approached her. She would never hurt Min-jae. My daughter died, she finally said, her voice breaking. I know what it's like to lose a child. I would cut off my own hand before I'd hurt him. Please believe me. Mrs. Kang's expression didn't change. Wait here. She was left alone for another hour. She prayed in her language, in Korean, in broken English. She prayed to every god she could think of. Finally, the door opened. Chairman Han entered. Emily dropped to her knees immediately. Chairman Nim, please. I swear I didn't. My son is stable, Han said, his voice absolutely flat. The EpiPen worked. He'll recover. Relief flooded through her so intensely she nearly collapsed. The juice was poisoned, Han continued. Peanut oil. Min-jae is severely allergic to peanuts. Someone tampered with it. Who? Emily whispered. We're finding out. Han walked closer, and she could see the rage burning behind his controlled exterior. The security footage shows you taking the juice box from the pantry. Shows you giving it to Min-jae. Shows everything. I didn't know it was poisoned, Chairman Nim. I swear on my life. I know. She looked up, startled. The footage also shows you've never accessed that part of the pantry before. Shows someone else putting the juice box there this morning. Shows them timing it for when you'd be most likely to find it. Han's hands clenched into fists. They set you up. Why? Because you're close to my son. Because killing him while you gave him the poison would destroy you both. Because my enemies are creative. He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. A man in kitchen staff uniform. Someone she vaguely recognized from seeing around the mansion. Do you know him? I've seen him. Maybe twice. I don't know his name. He was hired 3 weeks ago. Through a contractor. Background check was clean. But someone paid very well to make it appear clean. Han's voice went even colder, which Emily hadn't thought possible. He doesn't work for that contractor. He works for the Kong family. Rivals. Emily felt sick. They wanted to kill Min-jae? They wanted to destroy me by killing Min-jae while making it look like you did it. 2 birds, 1 stone. He put the phone away. The man is being questioned. The way he said questioned made Emily's blood run cold. Can I see Min-jae? She asked quietly. He's asking for you. Han led her to the medical wing, a full hospital setup inside the mansion. Min-jae lay in bed, connected to monitors, his face pale but his eyes open. When he saw her, he reached out. Ajama! She rushed to his side, taking his small hand. I'm here, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Min-jae said seriously. Appa told me. Bad people tried to hurt me, but you saved me. The guard saved you. Sungmin SSI gave you medicine. But you stayed with me. You were there. His grip tightened on her hand. Don't leave. Okay? Don't let them make you leave. Amelie looked at Han, who stood by the door watching them. No one is making her leave, Han said quietly. She's staying. Min-jae smiled and closed his eyes, exhausted but comforted. Amelie sat by his bed for hours, holding his hand, watching him breathe. Han stayed too, silent and still, a guardian carved from stone. When Min-jae finally fell into a deep sleep, Han gestured for Amelie to follow him outside. In the hallway, he turned to face her. This was an attack on my family, he said. The Kong family thought they could use you to hurt us. They were wrong. I understand if you need me to leave, Chairman Nim. If my presence puts Min-jae in danger, your presence keeps him alive. Without you, he doesn't eat. Without you, he has no will to survive. That makes you essential. Han's expression shifted, showing something Amelie had never seen before, vulnerability. But it also makes you a permanent target. Every enemy I have will see you as a weakness to exploit. Then what do we do? Han was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. In my world, there are rules, lines that cannot be crossed. One of those lines is family. Direct family is untouchable. Attacking them means total war, destruction of entire organizations. It's mutually assured destruction, which is why most of my enemies have left Min-jae alone. Until now. I don't understand. The Kong family crossed that line by targeting Min-jae. They did it because they're desperate, because I'm winning a territory war they can't afford to lose. They'll try again. And they'll keep trying until either Min-jae is dead or they are. Amelie felt cold. What are you saying? Han met her eyes directly. I'm saying I need to make it clear that you are not just staff. Not just someone close to Min-jae. I need to make it clear that attacking you is the same as attacking me. How? He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, set with a single diamond that probably cost more than her family's house. By making you family, he said. Amelie stared at the ring, her mind unable to process what she was seeing. You want me to marry you? She whispered. I want to protect my son, and I want to protect you. In my world, marriage is the only way to do both. Han's voice was completely businesslike, as if he were proposing a merger rather than a marriage. This isn't about romance. This isn't about love. This is strategy. Once you're my wife, you're untouchable. Anyone who harms you brings down the full force of my organization, plus the wrath of every allied family. It's protection you can't get any other way. But she gestured at herself. I'm a poor cleaning woman from Ghana. I'm nobody. Your family, your organization, they'll never accept. I don't ask for acceptance. I give orders. His expression softened almost imperceptibly. And you're not nobody. You're the woman who saved my son's life, who he calls Ajama, who he loves. That makes you more valuable than anyone else in this building. This is insane. This is necessary. Amelie looked through the window at Min-jae, sleeping peacefully, monitors beeping softly. What about Min-jae? She asked. What do we tell him? The truth. That I'm marrying you to keep you both safe. And what about us? What would this marriage mean? Publicly, you'd be my wife. You'd have my name, my protection, my resources. Privately, we'd maintain separate lives. I won't demand anything from you except that you continue caring for Min-jae. He paused. You'd be free to leave at any time. This isn't a prison. But if I leave, Min-jae. Exactly. Amelie closed her eyes. She thought about her daughter, about the promises she'd made, about the life she'd lost. She thought about Min-jae's smile, his laugh, the way he held her hand. She thought about being poor all her life, invisible, working herself to death just to survive. And she thought about the chance to matter, to be protected, to give her family a better life, to save a child. If I say yes, she said slowly, I have conditions. Han raised an eyebrow. You're negotiating? You said this was strategy. Strategy means negotiation. The corner of his mouth twitched. It might have been a smile. Go on. My family. I send them money every month to Ghana. I want that to continue, and I want them to have enough to live well, not just survive. Done. I want to keep cooking for Min-jae, not just ordering staff around. I want to actually be there in the kitchen making his food. Done. And I want. She hesitated. I want to still be me. I'll wear your name, live in your house, play the part. But I'm not changing who I am. I'm not becoming someone else. Han studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. I wouldn't want you to. Min-jae loves you because of who you are, not who you pretend to be. He held out the ring. Do we have an agreement? Amelie looked at the ring, at this man who controlled an empire built on violence, at the hospital room where a small boy slept. She took the ring. We have an agreement. Han slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, of course it did. He'd probably known her ring size before she did. We'll marry tomorrow, he said. Private ceremony. Immediate family only. Tomorrow. The Kong family needs to know immediately that you're under my protection. Every hour we wait is another hour you're vulnerable. He turned toward Min-jae's room. I'll inform my legal team. Mrs. Kong will handle the arrangements. You should rest. I want to stay with Min-jae tonight. Han nodded. I'll have a chair brought in. He started to walk away, then paused. Thank you, he said quietly, not looking at her, for choosing to stay, for caring about my son, for everything. Then he was gone, leaving Amelie standing in the hallway, wearing a ring that cost more than her life, engaged to a crime lord, about to become a mother to a child who needed her. She looked down at the ring, watching it catch the light. Then she went back into Min-jae's room, pulled a chair to his bedside, and held his hand while he slept. Whatever came next, she would face it. For him, the wedding took place 26 hours later in Chairman Han's private office. Amelie wore a simple white dress that Mrs. Kong had acquired, probably costing more than Amelie wanted to know. Her hair was styled by someone who made her look elegant without erasing who she was. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Min-jae knocked on her door, then entered without waiting. He was wearing a tiny suit and a huge smile. You look beautiful, Ajumma, he said. Thank you, young master. You don't have to call me young master anymore. After today, you'll be my Iyama. He said it so matter-of-factly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Amelie knelt down to his level. Min-jae, you know your real mother was. I know. Appa told me. She was my first Iyama, and she'll always be in here. He touched his chest, over his heart. But people can have more than one Iyama, right? And you're mine now, if that's okay. Tears burned in Amelie's eyes. She pulled him into a hug. That's more than okay, she whispered. The ceremony was short and efficient. A judge, clearly in Chairman Han's pocket, performed the legal rites. Mrs. Kong and 2 security guards served as witnesses. Han wore a black suit, his expression neutral. When it came time to exchange vows, he spoke in Korean, his voice steady. I promise to protect you and honor you as my wife, for as long as you choose to stay. It wasn't traditional. It wasn't romantic. But it was honest. Amelie's voice shook when she spoke. I promise to care for your son and honor this family, for as long as I'm needed. They exchanged rings. The judge pronounced them married. Han looked at her for a moment, then gave the smallest nod. Official. Legal. Done. Min-jae cheered. We're a family now. After the ceremony, Mrs. Kong approached Amelie. Madam Han, she said, bowing. Actually bowing. Amelie stared. Please, you don't have to. You're the chairman's wife now. Hierarchy demands respect. Mrs. Kang's expression was unreadable. I'll have your things moved to the 3rd floor, the chairman's residence. We discussed separate quarters. The appearance must be maintained. You'll have your own room, naturally, but it must be in the same wing. Mrs. Kong lowered her voice. The entire organization will know about this marriage within hours. Every rival family will be watching. The appearance of unity is as important as the legal protection. Amelie nodded slowly. She was learning the rules of this new world. That evening, Chairman Han held a small dinner. Just him, Amelie, and Min-jae. No staff, no guards in the room. It should have been awkward. Instead, it felt almost normal. Min-jae chattered happily about everything and nothing. Amelie had made his favorite juk, plus extra dishes. Han ate quietly, occasionally answering his son's questions. Appa, Min-jae said at one point, are you and Iyama going to sleep in the same bed? Amelie nearly choked on her rice. Han's expression didn't change. No, we have separate rooms. But married people sleep together. Some do. We don't. It's a different kind of marriage. Min-jae thought about this seriously. Okay, as long as you don't fight. My friend's parents fight all the time. We won't fight, Han said, glancing at Amelie. This is a partnership, not a battle. After dinner, while Amelie was cleaning up, she still insisted on doing it herself. Han appeared in the kitchen doorway. You don't have to do that anymore, he said. You're not staff. I like it. It keeps me grounded. He nodded slowly, then walked to the counter where she was washing dishes. For a moment, he just stood there, watching her work. I won't make demands, he said quietly. I meant what I said. This is protection, not possession. You're free to live your life. I know, but there will be events, meetings, appearances where you'll need to stand beside me. Play the role. I understand. And if you ever want to leave, I won't. She turned to face him. Not while Min-jae needs me. I meant my vows. Han studied her face, and for the first time, she saw something like respect in his eyes. You're stronger than you look, he said. I've had to be. He nodded once, then left her alone in the kitchen. Amelie finished the dishes and went to her new room on the 3rd floor. It was beautiful, larger than her entire family home in Ghana, decorated with quiet elegance. She sat on the bed and called her mother for the first time in weeks. Mama, Amelie, I've been so worried. Your money came, but, Mama, I need to tell you something. I got married. Silence. Then, married? To who? It's complicated, but he's a good man, powerful. He has a son who needs me. You love him. Amelie thought about Han, cold, controlled, dangerous. A man who showed emotion like other people showed their bones. No, she said honestly, but I respect him, and I love his son, and that's enough for now. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Are you safe? Safer than I've ever been. Are you happy? Amelie thought about Min-jae's smile, about the purpose she'd found, about the strange, impossible family she'd stumbled into. Getting there, Mama. Getting there. After the call, she lay in her expensive bed in her expensive room and stared at the ceiling. She was Madame Han now, wife to a crime lord, mother to a traumatized boy, protected, powerful, important. Also still a poor girl from Ghana who'd lost her daughter and nearly lost herself. Both things were true, and somehow that was okay. The weeks that followed were an education in power. Amelie learned that being Madame Han meant staff bowing when she passed. It meant security details following her everywhere. It meant access to resources she'd never imagined. It also meant attending dinners with people who smiled while calculating how to destroy each other. The first major event was a meeting with allied family heads. Not quite Mafia, but close. Powerful men who controlled different parts of Seoul's underground economy. Han prepared her the night before. They'll test you, he said. Try to find weakness. Disrespect you subtly. It's what they do. What should I do? Be yourself. But remember, you're not asking for their acceptance. You're informing them of reality. He adjusted his tie, his movements precise. You're my wife. That's not a request for approval. It's a fact they must accept. The dinner was held in a private room at an exclusive restaurant. Amelie wore a dress that Mrs. Kong had selected. Elegant, expensive, but not flashy. Conservative but commanding. She walked in beside Han, her head high, her expression calm. The men at the table stood. Some bowed respectfully. Others' bows were perfunctory, testing. Gentlemen, Han said in Korean. This is my wife, Amelie. One of the older men, Chairman Park, smiled without warmth. Congratulations, Chairman Han. Quite an unusual choice. The insult was there, wrapped in politeness. Amelie felt Han tense slightly beside her. But before he could respond, she spoke. Thank you, Chairman Park, she said in careful Korean. I agree it's unusual, but then most valuable things are. The room went quiet. Then Chairman Park laughed, genuine this time. She has fire. Good. You'll need it, Madam Han. The dinner proceeded. Amelie spoke little but listened to everything. She noticed the power dynamics, the alliances, the subtle threats disguised as business talk. At one point, Chairman Park's wife leaned toward her. How are you finding life in the Han family? She asked, her tone curious rather than hostile. It's different from what I knew, Amelie said honestly. But Chairman Han's son has given me purpose. Family is family, no matter how it's formed. The woman nodded slowly. That's a wise answer. Hold on to it. In this world, family is everything. When they returned home that night, Han looked at her with something approaching approval. You did well. I just told the truth. The truth, delivered correctly, is more powerful than any lie. He paused. Chairman Park called me after we left. He said I chose better than he expected. Is that good? It's very good. It means you're accepted. Protected. Han's expression softened slightly. It means they see you as one of us. Is that what you wanted? It's what we needed. For you. For Min-jae. For all of us. Life settled into a rhythm. Amelie cooked, cared for Min-jae, attended events at Han's side. She sent money to her family, enough that her mother called in tears, thanking her, asking if it was real. Min-jae thrived. He gained weight, grew taller, laughed more. He called her Yama without hesitation now. And sometimes, late at night when he had nightmares, he'd come to her room instead of his father's. She'd hold him, stroke his hair, sing songs in her language until he fell asleep. Han noticed but never commented, just nodded when he found them together in the morning. 3 months after the wedding, Amelie was in the kitchen when she heard raised voices from Han's office. She'd learned to ignore business discussions. They were frequent and often heated. But then she heard Min-jae's name. She moved closer to the door, not quite eavesdropping but listening. Cannot show weakness, a man's voice said. The Kong family is regrouping. If they see you've gone soft. I haven't gone soft, Han said, his voice cold. I've eliminated weakness. Your son is still a weakness. And that woman is my wife. And anyone who touches either of them will see exactly how soft I've become. Silence. Then, we understand, Chairman Nim. After the men left, Han found Amelie in the kitchen. He knew she'd heard. They're afraid I've changed, he said simply. Have you? He considered the question seriously. Yes, but not in the way they think. I'm not weaker. I'm more focused. Before, I had nothing to lose. Now I have everything. That makes me more dangerous, not less. Because of Min-jae? Because of both of you. It was the first time he'd included her in that equation. As if she mattered not just as Min-jae's caretaker, but as someone important in her own right. That night at dinner, Min-jae made an announcement. Appa, Yama, I want to have a real birthday party this year. Han looked up from his food. A party? Yeah, with friends from school. And cake. And games. Min-jae looked between them hopefully. Can we? Han glanced at Amelie, something uncertain in his expression. I think that's a wonderful idea, she said softly. Every child should have a birthday party. It's a security risk, Han said. Everything's a security risk. But Min-jae deserves to be a child, not just a protected asset. She reached across the table and took his hand, the first time she'd initiated physical contact with him. Let him have this, please. Han looked at their joined hands, then at his son's hopeful face. All right, he said. A small party. Vetted guests. But a party. Min-jae cheered and jumped up to hug them both, wrapping his arms around their shoulders, pulling them together. For a moment they were a real family, not a strategic marriage, not protection, just 3 people who cared about each other, trying to build something good in a world full of darkness. The party was small but perfect. 10 children from Min-jae's school, all carefully vetted. Games in the garden. A cake that Amelie spent 2 days decorating. Han stood off to the side, watching his son laugh and play, and Amelie saw something in his expression that she'd never seen before. Peace. When the party ended and the children left, Min-jae hugged Amelie tightly. Thank you, Yama. This was the best birthday ever. I'm glad, baby. I wish my first Yama could have met you. She would have liked you. Amelie's eyes burned. I wish I could have met her too. That night, after Min-jae was asleep, Amelie found Han on the balcony of his office, looking out over Seoul. She stood beside him quietly. Thank you, he said, for the party, for making him happy. He deserves happiness. So do you. She looked at him, surprised. He was still staring out at the city, his profile sharp against the night sky. Are you happy, Amelie? He asked. It was the first time he'd used her name instead of calling her my wife, or nothing at all. She thought about it honestly. I'm not sure I know what happy is anymore, but I'm content. I'm needed. I have purpose. That's more than I had before. Is it enough? For now. He nodded slowly. If you ever want more, if you ever want to leave, I meant what I said. You're free. I know. She paused. But I'm choosing to stay. Not because I'm trapped. Because I want to. Han turned to look at her finally. Why? Because Min-jae needs me. Because I found family here, strange as it is. And because... She struggled for words. Because you're a better man than you think you are. He laughed. A short, bitter sound. I'm a criminal, Emily. I've hurt people, killed people, built an empire on violence. I know. But you're also a father who loves his son enough to marry a stranger to protect him, who's learning to eat vegetables because Min-jae asks you to, who stands outside his door every night before bed, even though you think no one notices. Han's expression shifted. You see too much. Maybe. Or maybe you hide too much. She smiled softly. You're allowed to be human, you know. Even crime lords get to have feelings. Feelings are weakness. Feelings are what make us strong enough to care about anything. She turned to face him fully. You changed the world for Min-jae. That's not weakness. That's love. For a long moment, Han just looked at her. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. A real smile, small but genuine. You're dangerous, he said. How so? You make me want to believe I can be better. You can be. We'll see. They stood together on the balcony, looking out at the city that Han controlled, and Emily felt something shift between them. Not love, not yet, but understanding, respect, partnership. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was how healing started. If you've made it this far in the story, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment below telling us what you think about Emily and Chairman Han's unusual family. Your support helps us create more stories like this one. 6 months after the wedding, everything changed again. It was a normal Tuesday. Emily was teaching Min-jae how to make his grandmother's recipe for groundnut soup when Han came home early. Something he never did. Pack a bag, he said to Emily. Both of you. Now. She knew better than to ask questions. Within 15 minutes, they were in an armored car, surrounded by security, racing through Seoul. What's happening? Min-jae asked, frightened. Han pulled his son close. There's been a threat. We're going somewhere safe until it's handled. They ended up at a safe house in the mountains, a fortress disguised as a luxury cabin. Han made calls, gave orders, his voice cold and controlled. Emily settled Min-jae in a bedroom, then found Han in the main room. Tell me, she said. He looked at her, then gestured to a chair. The Kong family made another move. Not against Min-jae this time. Against you. Her blood went cold. What kind of move? They sent word through intermediaries. They know about your family in Ghana, your mother, your siblings. His jaw tightened. They threatened them unless I withdraw from a major territory negotiation. Emily sat down slowly. They'd actually hurt my family? In a heartbeat. What are you going to do? Han was quiet for a moment. Then, what do you want me to do? She looked at him, surprised. You're asking me? They're your family. Your risk. This affects you more than anyone. Emily thought about her mother, her younger siblings. She thought about Min-jae sleeping in the next room, trusting them to keep him safe. Don't withdraw, she said firmly. Don't let them win by using fear. They could actually hurt your family. Then protect them. That's what you're good at, isn't it? Protecting people. She met his eyes. Bring them here, to Seoul, to safety. Let the Kong family see that threatening my family only makes you stronger, not weaker. Han studied her face. That would mean bringing them into this world. Into my world. They're already in it. They just don't know it yet. He nodded slowly. I'll make the arrangements. Within 48 hours, Emily's mother and 3 younger siblings were on a plane to Seoul. They arrived confused, frightened, overwhelmed. Emily met them at the mansion, and her mother took one look at her. Dressed in expensive clothes, standing in a palace, surrounded by security, and burst into tears. What has happened to you? Her mother asked in their language. I found a family, Mama, and they found me. Over the following days, she explained everything. The marriage, Min-jae, Han, the danger, the protection. Her mother listened to it all, then said, You married for strategy, not love. Yes, but you love the boy, like my own. And the man. Emily hesitated. I respect him, trust him. Maybe that's enough. Her mother smiled sadly. Maybe it's the start of more. Han set up Emily's family in a secure apartment, gave them allowances, arranged for her siblings to attend good schools. He never asked for gratitude, never lorded his generosity over them, but he did ask to meet Emily's mother formally. The meeting was awkward. Han spoke Noakan, Emily's mother spoke limited Korean, but they sat together in his office with Emily translating, and her mother looked him in the eye. You use my daughter for protection, she said bluntly. Yes, Han answered honestly. You do not love her. No, but I respect her deeply. And your son adores her, needs her. She's given him life. Amelie's mother nodded slowly. You are honest. That is good. But I tell you this. My daughter has suffered enough. She lost her child, lost her hope. If you harm her, powerful or not, you will answer to me. Han's expression didn't change, but there was something in his eyes. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of a fellow protector. I won't harm her, he said. I promise you that. See that you keep that promise. After her mother left, Han looked at Amelie. She's terrifying. Amelie laughed. Now you know where I get it. As the weeks passed, something unexpected happened. Amelie's family integrated into their strange life. Her siblings played with Min-jae. Her mother taught Amelie's new household staff recipes from home. The mansion started smelling like Ghanaian cooking mixed with Korean dishes. And Han watched it all, silent and observing. One evening, Amelie found him in the kitchen, looking at a dish her mother had made. What is it? He asked. Jollof rice, a West African dish. Would you like to try it? He took a bite, his expression thoughtful. It's good, different. My mother made it. She wanted to thank you for protecting us. She doesn't owe me thanks. Yes, she does. You saved her family. That matters. Han set down the plate. Your family is part of my family now. That's how this works. Is that why you're eating my mother's cooking? To make her feel welcome. I'm eating it because it's good. And because... He paused. Because maybe your mother's right. Maybe I should know more about you. About where you come from. Amelie felt something warm bloom in her chest. That means a lot. Don't read too much into it. I'm still a criminal. I know. But you're also a man learning to be part of a bigger family. That's something. That night, Min-jae asked if Amelie's family could join them for dinner. It's getting crowded, Han said. But there was no real objection in his voice. So they all ate together. Han at the head of the table, Amelie beside him, Min-jae and her siblings laughing, her mother watching everything with wise, knowing eyes. It was chaotic, loud, imperfect. It was family. And for the first time, Amelie saw Han relax. Not completely, he'd probably never completely relax. But enough to smile at Min-jae's jokes, to nod at her mother's stories, to exist in the warmth without pulling away. After dinner, while the children played, Amelie and Han stood together watching them. This isn't what I expected, he admitted. What did you expect? A business arrangement. Clean. Simple. And instead, chaos. Noise. Family. Is that bad? He thought about it. No. Just different. He glanced at her. You've changed things. Changed me. You let yourself be changed. That was your choice. Was it? Yes. You could have kept walls up. Stayed cold. But you didn't. You let Min-jae in. Let me in. Let all of this in. She gestured at the scene before them. That takes courage. Or foolishness. Sometimes they're the same thing. Han was quiet for a long moment. Then, thank you. For bringing life to this house. For giving Min-jae family. For staying. Even when I gave you every reason to leave. Amelie reached out and took his hand. He looked down at their joined hands, surprised. We're partners, she said softly. In this strange, imperfect, strategic marriage. But we're also becoming friends. Maybe more. And that's worth staying for. Han squeezed her hand gently. Not romantic, but real. Connected. Maybe more, he agreed quietly. It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. But it was honest. It was real. It was two broken people learning to build something good together. And sometimes that was the most powerful love of all. 1 year after the wedding, the Kong family fell. Not through violence, though there was some, but through strategy, alliances, and the quiet dismantling of power that Han specialized in. When it was over, Chairman Park called a meeting of all the family heads. The Kong family crossed lines, he announced. Targeted children, threatened innocents. Chairman Han has demonstrated appropriate response. Does anyone object? Silence. No one objected, because everyone understood the message. Family was sacred. Cross that line, face total destruction. At the celebration dinner afterward, Chairman Park raised his glass to Amelie. To Madame Han, he said, who taught us all that family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's protection. It's love. Everyone drank. Even the hardened criminals. even the men who'd built empires on violence, because they recognized truth when they saw it. That night, after everyone left, Amelie found Han in his office. "It's over," he said simply. "Is it? For now. There will always be threats, always challenges, but the major one is done. So what happens now?" He looked at her thoughtfully. "What do you want to happen?" It was a loaded question. He was offering her an out, she realized. The marriage had served its purpose. She could leave with honor, with safety, with resources. She could be free. But as she looked at him, this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly tender man, she realized something. She didn't want to leave. "I want to stay," she said. "Not because I have to, but because I choose to. Because the strange family we've built, it's mine now. It's ours." Han stood and walked to her. He lifted his hand hesitantly, then gently touched her cheek. "I wasn't supposed to care," he said quietly. "This was supposed to be strategy. What is it now? Something more. Something real." He paused. "I don't know if I know how to love, Amelie. I've forgotten how, if I ever knew. Then we'll learn together." She covered his hand with hers. "One meal at a time. One day at a time. No pressure. No expectations. Just possibility." He smiled. A full, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "Possibility. I like that." Min-jae's voice called from the hallway. "Iyama, Appa, come watch the movie with me." They looked at each other and laughed. "We're being summoned," Amelie said, "by a 7-year-old tyrant. Our 7-year-old tyrant." They walked together to the living room, where Min-jae had set up a movie and surrounded himself with pillows and blankets. He made them sit on either side of him, then snuggled between them. As the movie started, Min-jae took both their hands and squeezed. "I love my family," he announced. Amelie looked across at Han. He was already looking at her. And in that moment, in that perfect, imperfect moment, they both understood. This was love. Not the romantic kind from movies, but the real kind, the chosen kind. The kind built on sacrifice and respect and partnership and hope. The kind worth fighting for. The kind worth staying for. The kind that heals. "I love our family too," Amelie said softly. Han didn't speak, but he squeezed Min-jae's hand and reached across his son to take Amelie's hand too, and they sat together. A crime lord, a poor woman from Ghana, and a child who'd brought them together, and watched a movie like any normal family, because they were family, not despite their differences, but because of them, and that, Amelie thought as Min-jae's head grew heavy on her shoulder, was the greatest miracle of all. If you enjoyed the story of Amelie and Chairman Han's journey from strangers to family, please subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories. Hit the like button if this touched your heart, and leave a comment telling us what moment resonated most with you. Your support means everything and helps us continue creating content that matters. Until next time, remember, family isn't just who you're born to. Sometimes it's who you choose, and sometimes it's who chooses you back.